Andy, it was really an oversight on my part, but we suffered a significant loss over the weekend. Carl Weathers, beloved actor, role model hero. I won't say role model because I didn't know him personally, but like from a movie standpoint, he was our hero.
Yeah.
Carl Weathers, some iconic roles. In Rocky, he was obviously Apollo Creed, which it just looked like he was born to play.
Yeah.
In Predator, Action Jackson, and of course he was Chubbs in Happy Gilmore. What are your thoughts on Carl Weathers, Andy? Just beloved actor.
Yeah. I mean, I was surprised, when I saw that he'd passed away. I wasn't, I hadn't heard he was ill or anything. So it just kind of caught me off guard. And I see exactly what you said. I started just thinking through the many and various roles that I've seen him in and how much fun he was in all of those. And you hit probably the three biggest ones right there. I was thinking also been watching, we both watched Mandalorian, his role as Grief Karga there as well, where he was fun to watch. But I mean, yeah, Apollo Creed, maybe the most iconic character that he played. I mean, that he'll always live as a legend, right? I mean, people grow up knowing Rocky and Apollo Creed in those first two Rocky movies and Rocky Four, and the relationship that evolved over time. And, his death in the ring was so huge, in Rocky Four. But, Chubbs Peterson was great in Happy Gilmore, such a completely different character that he played and entertained us with. And then, of course, I mean, Predator and the classic, Arnold team up. I mean, it was just some really fun, very iconic characters that, really spanned our time growing up to present, the last 40 plus years. I mean, what Rocky was 79, if I recall. I mean, he really had a great career, a very likable actor, and seeing the comments from those that he worked with, after he passed, and people seem to genuinely really love him and the way he cared about his family. And, again, not knowing him personally, it seems like he was just a good dude to work with and a good dude, outside as a friend and a family, member. And it's good to see that. It's nice if people remember him in that positive way. So yeah, definitely a loss. Sad to see, but great career, and it looks like he lived a very good life.
Okay, so Andy, if you had to rate the Rocky movies that he was in, not don't rate your Rocky movie, but rate the Apollo Creed performance of one, two, three, and four. Like, where would you like? How would you rate those four movies?
I've got to go four as tops, just because he was so fun in that. I mean, when he comes
Yeah.
out to James Brown, he's dancing in the ring, talking crap to Ivan Drago, right? Just, I mean, he was a fun character. He evolved from being, the champ, to being the older guy that's still kind of hungry, right? Still seeks that glory. That was, I think, my favorite. It was also probably, I can't remember if I saw Rocky 3 or Rocky 4 first. One of those two was my first, and was sort of my, big guy moment of like, wow, this is wild, right? It was either Apollo Creed or Thunderlips that first caught my attention, I think, right? So probably four, and then, having gone back and watched one and two, I mean, those were great movies, right? I mean, I was
Yeah.
too young when they first came out. But I went back and saw them, numerous times over the years, and he was great in both of those. And then probably three, once I think the character was a little bit smaller in three, right? I mean, the character, three was about Rocky Balboa. You had Hulk Hogan in there. You had Mr. T in there. So he probably had the smallest role in that one. So I think I'd probably put that one as last among those four.
Yeah, I might go a little bit of the opposite. I liked his role in three, even though it was smaller. Like
Mm-hmm.
the things that he said, like his like motivation, his workout part. Like he was also like the ring commentator during
Yeah.
the first Clubber Lang thing, and it's like there is no tomorrow. There is what's wrong with you, Rock? And all that, like some of that stuff. It's just iconic. I would then go. I did like his role in four. It was really even though that was another short one because spoiler alert, Apollo dies, but even though he died early in that thing is or in that movie, but I did like then I go to one and two. I mean, those are. I mean, that was before Rocky got like three and four got a little over the top, I thought, but like
Yeah.
one and two were still really good
Yeah.
movies. Like and that's what I think people forget about Sylvester Stallone. I mean, Rocky was all his baby, and that was a really good movie. I won't say it was necessarily fast paced or whatever, but it showed what like this this boxer from Philadelphia was all about. And I thought it was those were good movies, but I did love the fight scene in Rocky One. That was probably one of my favorite ones. Oh, it's a fun going through Carl Weathers. I of course love the Chubbs Peterson part. And you saw a lot on social media about, Chubbs in the, at the end of Happy Gilmore when him, the alligator, and Abe Lincoln are up in the up in thing. But you took Chubbs' hand. That scene was the alligator fight scene was really good. Okay, so fun thing on that. Any parting shots on Carl Weathers, Andy?
No,
Nope.
just grateful to have seen him, watched him, and enjoyed him. He's rest in peace, Carl Weathers.
Him in Predator, that was a good. You'll see that the hand clasp between him
Classic.
and
Yeah.
Arnold. That was classic. Just strutting that muscle. That was classic 80s action movie. So, okay, Andy, let's move on to some other like TV show type of talk. What are you watching these days? Like, there's a
Yeah, so
lot.
we caught ourselves watching something we started a while back and then kind of fell back into, which is absolutely silly but fun, I think. So we kind of ran through a series of shows recently, while we were in the evenings, and then we've fallen back into watching Cobra Kai. Have you ever watched that, Dave, on Netflix?
I watched the first season of it, and then I just I liked it, but then I never went back and kept watching it. So it was good. I love Joey Lawrence.
Yeah, we did the same thing. We watched season one. Actually, I think I watched season one, and then my wife was kind of like, "Hey, do you want to watch this?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's watch it." It's so silly. I mean, the
Yeah.
show makes fun of itself continually, right? But it's so full of nonsense, 80s memories. It makes fun of the whole Karate Kid saga while also sort of celebrating it and building on it. And it's so cartoony and goofy, but also fun. Like it's fun, mindless TV, right? You can dial
Yeah.
out. You don't have to think about anything. There's nothing that's really serious, even the serious stuff, because it's wrapped around all the goofiness. And so we've been enjoying it. The characters, seeing these characters that we saw in the movies, and now, I mean, they're probably just a couple of years older than you and I are. I think in the show they're probably around the same age you and I are, and just seeing those character evolutions is fun. And so it's been a fun, sort of goofy, mindless show to enjoy the last few weeks. So we just finished up, I think, season two, if I recall. I think we're starting season three, and it's fun TV. I think they just started up with season six, maybe, or they're coming out with season six. So it's apparently America likes the Karate Kid and the Cobra Kai storyline. So it's fun to watch. How about you, Dave?
Well, it's interesting. I want to hold the point you're making about fun, mindless stuff. I will come back to that because, and also another things about Cobra Kai. But I have really been struggling. But I've been watching True Detective Night Country, the one on HBO.
Heard a lot about
Um,
that.
it's I'm not sure how to think of it. Like I like watching it. It's a little obviously the True Detective series is all about like the occult, like some of the occult or some of the dark stuff that goes on in the midst of telling what should be like really good. I have some character development with the police officers and how they interact with each other as they investigate these mysterious things. It's good. I enjoy it. I'm just not like I think I have to work too hard for it. Like it makes me think a little bit more than I need to. I'm usually trying to do some other things while I'm watching TV, so it is one of those things where it's good. I like where it's going, but I'm also hoping that it ends really soon. And I think it's only six episodes, so it's we're on episode five is this week. So I'm enjoying that. Have you piqued any interest around the Masters of the Air, the World War II bomber um, movie on Apple or show on Apple?
We don't do Apple. That's one service we don't do, actually. So
No.
yeah, I'm blind to it.
Did you watch Band of Brothers? Oh, you had to watch the Band of
Yeah,
Brothers.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And what did you watch the Pacific?
No, I don't think I did.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, obviously, Band of Brothers, without question, one of the best series I think ever out there. The Pacific was different because the war in the Pacific obviously was, I think, messier than the war in Europe was. I really enjoyed that movie. It was just a different take. I'm struggling to get into the Masters of the Air. Um, mostly because I don't really have much connection with and again in World War II there was no Air Force, it was the Army Air Force, and so or Army Air Corps, and
Yeah.
so it broke away after World War II. But so even though it's the Army, I struggle to connect with the bombers. My father-in-law, his dad was a bomber during World War II, and he recounts several stories of those time, and of course he's got his opinions on this latest series. It's good. I'm just not invested yet. So I've only watched one episode. I think four have aired. I'm not pining to it. I'm having a hard time with TV these days. And so just really struggling to find the right shows. I mean, I know there's a lot of good stuff out there. I don't know. Some of it is maybe I think TV has become too smart
Yeah.
or they're trying too many different things. I mean, there's an interesting dynamic where we're trying to tell like the villain story almost, or like these good versus bad type of dynamics. Andy, I don't know if you've noticed or picked up on any of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think it's interesting, and I think it's something that's really evolved the last few years, more noticeably than in the past. And I think growing up, there's a lot of good versus evil, right? That was a story, right? You'd glimpses of sort of, hey, there's a backstory here. There's a goodness to this bad guy, and that lots of times, right? I mean, you can think even growing up for us, like Darth Vader, right? Darth Vader was
Right.
the ultimate bad guy, but then at the end of the day, really he was there's a good heart behind him, right? There's some redemption there. Again, spoiler alert, he ends up trying to save Luke Skywalker, right? So I think that's always been there, but I think much more common now we see, hey, there's a backstory here. This guy isn't just born bad. Something got him here, and sometimes it can be a little tedious. I mean, sometimes it's like, okay, let's move on. The guy, he's but at the same time, it's more honest, right? Because in our world, like people, no, nobody is pure good, nobody is pure evil. The bad guys do have a reason why they do it, right? From criminals today to violent crime to gangs to politicians, right? There's a reason why people are bad, screwed up, do bad things, do evil things, hurt other people. So I think there's a goodness in telling that story. And to go back to Cobra Kai, that's kind of what you get in Cobra Kai, right? You're getting the backstory of some of these characters, and like, hey, they're not bad guys. They're just people doing bad things, right? For whatever reason, right? Their teacher was bad, their home life was bad, they were, whatever it was. I think it's interesting to see that. And I think it helps people sort of appreciate that, okay, maybe there's more to the enemy, whoever the enemy is. And and I think that's sort of a good thing. And I think it applies to the world we live in today. I can come back to that in a minute, Dave. But for you, what do you think about generally the backstory, bad guy, good guy storylines?
Yeah, I think it's okay. I just worry, and I do like to know why how that person got to it, and it does make it seem like you can yeah, it does make that person become more, you can try to connect with that person and understand their view on it. I do wonder if like we're also the unintended part of that is we're normalizing those bad behaviors. Like we're trying to normalize that as saying, "Oh, well, they have every right to do that because they were they were this or that growing up, or they had this life event that occurred, and that's how they got there." That's my only concern is like is that making it seem like this behavior is acceptable? And I don't know. And I wonder if the other part is like has television become too tricky in that front? Do we want to know all of that, or is that even does that make it better or worse? I don't know the answer, Andy.
Yeah, I think I don't know that it makes it okay for them to do the bad things they do, but I think it helps understand that there's a reason why maybe it occurred, right? You still own your bad decisions, right? I mean, we've all made bad choices. You have to live with those choices. There might be a reason, understandable reasons we can get empathize with of how you got to that bad choice. We still got to that bad choice, and I think we still, we still own those. I think the same thing with our show characters. Like, we understand how Darth Vader became Darth Vader, but he still, murdered, thousands of people, right? He's still a bad
Yeah,
guy.
yeah.
And so I think that's good. And I think where I think it's important, and where I think it's not bad for kids to see that, especially kids, but all of us, is because we live in a world where, while we're starting to appreciate that in entertainment, I think we're increasingly unappreciating that in the real world, whether that's our political opponents or our geopolitical opponents. there's a tendency in politics and the media to paint the opposition, whoever that is, as evil and bad, right? And the only time that really works, and I think is justified, is for individuals going to war, right? So when you're going to go to war and potentially kill other people, you kind of have to mentally make them evil and bad, right? You're stopping the enemy horde. Otherwise, it's really hard to put yourself in a state of mind where you're going to potentially go and eliminate human people, right? Human lives. And so I think in that context, it's kind of understandable, but in in sports, you can argue that you're making the opponent a bad guy in a sense, right? So you can go and beat him up, but there's a difference there, a significant difference there, right? But what we see in politics is we want to paint the political opposition as bad and evil, right? Donald Trump does this on a daily basis when he talks about the absolute horrible state of the United States of America, what his opponents are doing to ruin the United States of America, and it's completely disconnected from reality, right? I mean, there might be some nuggets of truth to some of his statements, but for the most part, it's disconnected, storytelling that is painting a group of people, a very broad group of people, as evil. And Democrats and some of the media do the same thing to Donald Trump and his supporters, right? There's no curiosity about why are people supporting this person, this position, this issue. And that's really, dangerous in politics, and it's dangerous in geopolitics, where I saw a statement the other day, for example, and I think faith-based organizations are prone to this danger. There were some so there's some families that were somehow tied into the Israeli war. I can't know if they're living there or relatives or whatever it was, but they had made a statement that the opponent was, it's a battle of good versus evil. I just think that's a really dangerous place to go, because as horrific as what's happening in Israel and Gaza is, and what happened on October 7th of last year absolutely was, when you paint your enemy as evil in a battle of good versus evil, it's easier to take extreme positions in many respects. And that makes, reaching some kind of peace and understanding much harder when you think you're battling good versus evil. That applies to Israel and Gaza. That applies to Russia and Ukraine. That applies if there's war in China and Taiwan. It's not good versus evil, right? It's different ideologies, people's beliefs. Their violence is inexcusable, but there's more to the story than their bad guys were good guys. And again, you see that on all sides, but it's a really dangerous game. And so I think if we can sort of learn something from these shows, that there's more to it than hey, Johnny's a bad guy from Cobra Kai and wants to beat up the good character. I think that's healthy and important and worth thinking about. And I think we are starting to appreciate that in entertainment, while we disconnect and don't appreciate that in the real world. And that's probably not the right mix.
Yeah, that was an interesting way you brought all that around there, Andy. You started with the good versus evil and the thing, went to politics and geopolitics, and then came back to it all over again. You're a pretty smart guy on that. That's
The beauty of Cobra Kai, Dave. Thank you. Thank you, Ralph Macchio, produced by Will Smith. I appreciate all that you're giving us.
that is, I'll tell you, somebody's listening to this podcast right now and going, that's a great term paper that I'm going to write for my psychology or sociology class, and how Cobra Kai can be it's what was it, Bill and Ted's Wild Stallions, how their music saved and brought peace to the world, Andy.
That's right.
So
That's right.
how Cobra Kai.
Guitar time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, no, I think it's a good thing. I think it's very late. Like, honestly, I think it's lazy talk when that's your this is good versus evil. But yeah, there are those instances. Of course, I fully appreciate and understand going to war, you have to make that
Yeah.
leap, because you're battling for, you're asking people to do horrific things. I mean, regardless of how legal and ethical or they ultimately are in the court of law. I mean, you're asking them to do horrible things, right? And so there's some things there that you have to look at on that front. But I do think it can help. It's a lazy talk, and I think a lot of people just settle on that. You're evil. You're committing genocide. You're doing this. You're not understanding the root of the issues when you get to that level. So I do think there's value to it. If I go back to, like, with the TV stuff, is I just think that we're too interested in telling these dark narratives sometimes, and these like complex storylines, that we forget that there are just some shows that really, let's watch the show and bring the family together and watch, something where on TV. Now I know that's romanticized in the old days. We have the Cosby Show, or what was the Thursday nights on NBC where you had Friends and Seinfeld and all those other great comedies. Or something. You lose some of that. I think sometimes they're trying to develop these shows too smartly, and we just want to watch just good shows. I mean, in decent shows, it doesn't have to be overly complex and stuff. Like for example, in the Night Country on the True Detective show, one of the act or the lead characters, a family member died, and obviously they built this character up to be enduring a lot of pain and trauma through their life, and so the storyline was then that person's going to go pick a fight because pain was the only thing that she felt, and like, well, that's a lazy approach to like. I mean, you see, like, how about talk more about the character if you're going to get to that part? I think sometimes we just get to these TV's becoming too smart. Let's just go back to some of these. Like Cobra Kai's a fun show. I mean, I don't think it takes, like you said, it doesn't take itself too seriously. It develops a story and it gives you a little bit more to it. But I think they've done a good job with some of that. But anyways, I don't know, Andy. That's a lot of talk for TV. I don't know if we really said anything of value, Andy, but we at least talked about the topic.
We did, and I think there's something for depth and character development and storyline development, and there's something for Happy Gilmore, right? I mean, there's a place for shows and movies that you don't have to think at all, right? You can just stare at the screen and turn your brain off. Which is, by the time I sit down to watch a show, I really don't want to think. I just want to turn my brain off, and it's not even being entertained; it's just dialing out for a few minutes. And there's a place for that. And like we've talked about Adam Sandler several times recently, like he's great at that. There's nothing more needed than just laugh at the stupidity in front of you and have fun with it. And I think there's definitely opportunity for that. And sometimes that's as far as you need to go into a storyline, right? Hey, here's this guy. He's a goof. He's gonna become a good person and have great success because he's a good guy and tries really hard. It's stupid and fun and entertaining. So and I think there are shows like that out there from physical acting to animation and things like that. I think there is some of that out there, but you're right. There's a lot, in a world of 10,000 choices, which is where we are today, right? We're no longer constrained to three broadcast networks and the big blockbuster movie. There's something out there for everybody. And so, in that mix, there's certainly a wide net of types of shows and characters and storylines. So Dave, I'm sure there's some days where you want simplicity, and I'm sure some days you appreciate that complexity. I just wish we'd think about more both when it comes to applying that, to our real world situation and trying to understand it in the mess of the world we live in. There are backstories in the real world too.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That's honestly, I still have cable, Andy, because I like to just put on something, and even though there's still commercials on cable, I like to just flip through the channels and like, oh, there's a good movie. Like, there's a good movie. Like, but I wouldn't look on my streaming channels to say I might like, for example, Empire Strikes Back was on last night, and I obviously it's my favorite movie, and
Yeah,
so I just threw it on and I'm just like I caught it at a good spot where I really enjoy that part of the movie, and I just was doing my own thing. I looked up when I needed to look up, and it was just easy. But if I would have gone on my on to stream and stuff, I would have spent 20 minutes just like, nah, I don't want to watch. Like I
yeah,
would have skipped past Empire Strikes Back. So
yeah.
that's where there would have been like a beauty of like, oh, Empire Strikes Back is on, I'm gonna watch it. So a little fun to that. So that's why I still keep cable. But I don't know, Andy. All good times, but I do enjoy that for sure. Okay, Andy, we're like wrapping up a little bit today. We're near the end here. Any value talking any politics stuff, Andy? There's some stupidity going on.
I'm
Jackass.
not sure if value is the right word, Dave. I don't know if
Yeah.
there's any value in any of our politics right now, but if there's something you want to discuss, by all means, like wherever you want to go.
I don't know if I really want to, Andy. Like, I'll be honest, like the GOP House is just like pure idiocy. They had the failed impeachment vote, which everyone in the world knew was going to fail, right? You're trying to impeach a cabinet member who's have no crimes or misdemeanors in any way, shape, or form, just because they're trying to make a political point about the border, I think. So that failed. Then they introduced a resolution that Donald Trump is not an insurrectionist. Then they also had a failing on trying to get their own border bill passed from the House side, whereas there was a Senate bill that had bipartisan and presidential support that they blocked and will continue to block. This is just there are so many problems in this country, and this is what the GOP is doing. They have shown again that they're incapable of leading, and that's where we're at, Andy. I think it's just well, I don't know if there's much worth talking about anymore.
No, Dave, there's a backstory to each one of the cast of characters that drive us both crazy as well. I just don't know if I care to hear it more days. You know, what I mean, it's just so hard to have continued patience with some of the antics that come out of Congress. And to be fair, Democrats did some dumb stuff too, but what you're seeing right now is so clearly politically motivated as opposed to in the best interest of our country. It's just really frustrating. Like if you don't like the way DHS is operating, pass legislation that mandates certain things. Like you have that ability, you're Congress, right? So pass laws, right? Pass budgets that reflect your priorities, and save the theater for the movies instead of playing that out. I mean, think about how incredibly expensive it is to waste the time of a DHS secretary impeachment hearing. Like the incredible amount of taxpayer dollars being wasted by assembling those Congress people together to debate this nonsense. Like that is the epitome of fraud, waste, and abuse. You know what I mean? It's just political theater. That pisses me off more than anything else. It's just wasted time. Like I said, there's other things to address. Like there's so many things that Congress could actually take on and do meaningfully and usefully. But instead, we're completely playing the game of let's get Donald Trump elected to the White House, and it's just infuriating. Not because I disagree with Donald Trump, I do, but that's not the issue. The issue is we're not doing anything useful or fruitful with these 535 elected officials that make up our House representatives in the Senate. Instead, we're playing these bullshit games, and it costs us time and money as citizens. I mean, we're footing the bill, and we don't have enough money to pay this bill that we're spending on right now, and there are real problems that aren't being addressed. And immigration and the nonsense around immigration and the border is the best example. Like we can do meaningful things, and some folks are trying to do meaningful things and reach compromise, and some are just putting on stage theater. And Dave, it's not a theater I want to attend. It's not a show I want to watch anymore.
100% agree, and that's already 2 more minutes than we probably should have talked about any of it. But it is ridiculous. So, Andy, a good way to wrap up this podcast. Fun topic with the TV. I might check back out to Cobra Kai, but fun topic with TV. We'll have some more stuff to talk on Friday, Andy, and then I think am I solo on Monday? I mean,
Are you Han Solo on Monday? You are, Dave. I'm abandoning you on Monday, and I'm excited to hear the Dave Pounder Men of a Certain X solo flight. I'm looking forward to listening to that, and I'm sure listeners are too. So I don't know where you're going to go, but I'm looking forward to finding out.
well, I'm going to try to give you material that you can listen on the road back, Andy. That's what I'm going to try to deliver to you. So, but with that, Andy, I think we'll wrap up and put a nice little bow on this episode. Appreciate your British Bulldog T-shirt. Always fun. But with that, Andy, I'll catch you next time.